We got it done. Okay. Marcus Phelps,
Here.
Dave Spina,
Here.
Doug Moglen here, Randy Brown,
Here.
David D. Delory. He's here on Zoom.
On Zoom?
Here,
Thank
Okay.
you. Bert? Dave McWilliams,
Here.
Norm Cheever,
Here.
Patrick Jubb, Alita Di Maria, Amber Buck, Scott Lehman,
Somebody?
Dory Boyd,
Here.
Roz Terry,
Here.
Jessica Whitmore Parker,
Here.
Corey Rowland,
Here.
Marissa Cook Obergan,
A present.
Michael Dougherty, Lucas Karen,
Here.
Maria Michael.
She may be on her way to Italy. I don't know what day she was leaving. Might have been today.
Right about this.
Yeah. Okay, with that roll call, I'll recognize that we do have a quorum of the Master Plan Advisory Committee, but no quorum of the Planning Board. First item on the agenda, public comment and dialogue. Anybody here in the audience would like to say anything? No? Okay. We have any public online? All right, hearing none. I'll note the meeting is being recorded, and is anybody recording it? No, record. So we will be posting this on the town website under our heading or the planning board. There's a link to the committee. So we will move into old business. And I'd ask John Goddard to update on focus groups and focus group meetings.
Okay, let's see. The last meeting, we gave an update regarding the transportation and infrastructure and town facilities focus group that met as an offshoot of focus groups, but probably worthy of mentioning at this point in time. There was a senior outreach opportunity that was a bit of a joint effort, both through our contract and other work that the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission undertakes. The guide, or I should say the post from PVPC regrettably had to postpone, but due to timing and the fact it was related to a regular meeting of the Council on Aging, they really held an open discussion anyways. It was well attended. There was robust dialogue for 2 hours. And Director of Senior Services and Park and Recreation, the title, Cindy Sullivan, chatted with me afterwards. And probably the greatest focus of the group was looking towards tomorrow's seniors and their opportunities, recognizing that, and their strengths, recognizing that Southwick has limited options for those who need to downsize or need more assistance than can be brought into their own home. So I think that was probably the broadest and the topic they discussed, amongst others.
So is there any record of that discussion, or is the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission facilitator going to?
So that open discussion right there, I learned was held in the hybrid format. So there's a recording of it, I think, through the Council on Aging page.
Okay, Council on Aging.
Yes, and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission coordinator is going to be hosting that discussion once again on February, I believe. And once we receive a formal announcement of that, we can send that out through our media channels.
So that'd probably be at 12:30 again. It would be
I imagine it's going to be a midday meeting.
February
13th,
13th.
unless that's the weekend. I just
let's hope it's not a weekend, yeah, a weekday,
It's a Monday, right?
Monday,
I hope so. That makes, yeah, it is. Okay, good. Then everything's starting to line up.
good.
Okay, so other focus groups coming together, cultural and historic resources. We're scheduled to meet next Thursday at 3 p.m. The following week, we're looking to convene I'm not gonna have the proper name in front of me, I'm sorry, the
Economic development is,
fantastic.
What they're saying
We'll use
there.
that title right there then.
Yeah.
So that group, will be looking to, see if we can, fit into either that Thursday or the following Thursday. So that kind of spreads out over the next 3 weeks from today. Up to 3 weeks. Others to come, I think I reported I had some contact with, the assistant principal. So it looks like early February, we'll be scheduling to meet with, their student council, and, class presidents. For a group of roughly about 20 or so.
is our member plugged in on that?
As a matter of fact,
I've been made aware.
Are you on the student council?
I am.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
my
We
story's
talked
straight.
about it at our recent meeting, so.
okay.
Fantastic. And that's all I have for updates on the focus groups.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes,
At the penultimate meeting, I believe, where Dory brought up the point of having somebody who could represent the part of the survey results that reflects the minimal housing information and minimal development. Was there ever any headway on that?
Yes, there were several suggested individuals. Let me get the right folder here. And I can pull up and see what that looks like.
that was under housing. I saw some names there.
James Wang, Diane Gale, Lucy Benoit were suggestions. I think Lucy was more of a suggestion from the young adult segment of the population. And I guess in a similar fashion, what we talked about for the senior constraints, obstacles they're facing, there's certainly, we'll call it a barrier for young adults to find housing. It's not showing on screen. Won't be shared. That's okay. We'll use my voice for the record.
So we've got a representation.
John, this is Dory. I don't know if I ever actually answered you, but Lucy was interested. Did I send you her contact info?
Yes.
Okay, I did it right before going somewhere, so it was like a blur.
I think we're all set. Thank you.
Okay,
And that housing one will be meeting after Ken gets back because he's looking for more than just a focus group. I believe he's trying to also fit that into the housing plan process development, a little broader or whatever you want to say.
That's
Yeah. More in-depth, maybe longer meeting, something like that.
several. I think
Maybe more than one. Oh,
perhaps
okay.
as he breaks it up.
And on economic development, we had a pretty good range of folks there.
Yes, indeed.
Some farming interests. Whatever. Yeah, good. Okay, any other?
Marcus or John, is there an updated list of who's gonna be on which focus groups?
I'm happy to share that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working off one that I think is a little older. Oh, yes, December 22nd,
We'll have
2022,
handwritten names on there,
with a few notes.
but sure,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to share that with the.
Yeah, that would be good.
and all those dates you just read off, are those gonna get posted to the events page as well on our Southwick 2040?
Yes. Yes, I have to remember the composition of the page. Yes, they will be.
Okay,
Because-
thanks.
we were making public announcement of all of the focus groups and indicating that the public could sit in on them, and then there'd be a time at the end to entertain any comments from the audience, as to what had been talked about, or maybe something had been missed and people wanted to add to it, so.
I can post that on the social media page as well, update the website.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'll share that information.
Great.
Yeah, that'd be good too. Oh, speaking of focus groups, there was an article that appeared in the Southwoods magazine. I don't know if anybody saw it.
Who's the author?
Some guy.
I don't know, he's a renowned author. It was short and sweet, but along those lines, if anybody on the committee is interested in writing something for Southwoods, they're very good about including articles. I think that was about 450 words. And you can see how much it occupies on a page. And we used our buddy Jog here in the heading. So I don't know what topic somebody might want to talk about, but run it, by John, just to see if there's something that maybe would be significant. I mean, that one is on focus groups. So maybe the next step is some of our initial vision and goals. I don't know, however we proceed. But anybody is welcome. I think, Bert, you had one in Southwoods, and Marissa, you did one, so, and me, so that's 3. And it's kind of a good outlet. I mean, it's a free distribution, gets to a lot of people in the town. And it's just a good outlet to kind of keep things in front of people, that we're still here. It's been a year and we're coming, into the final stretch as far as getting some material drafted and so forth. So, okay. Speaking of material, the next topic is a review of master plan material. And I was gonna just have a couple folks, I'll probably surprise David Spina, but anyway, Norm, we'll bring Norm on first. He's had a couple slides to talk about the
Let me in someone.
answers that we received on the questionnaire.
Okay, I am very happy to say that the appendix is completed. In the process of proofing it, and after 21 questions, I think I have 4 or 5 left to prove. And then it will be ready for others to prove if you so desire. I'm going to show you a slide here that's going to show you actually why it took me as long as it did. And we'll show you, if you decide you want to proof it, what you're signing up for. Okay? Okay. First of all, there are There are 21 questions. That includes 22, which I broke apart because it had one on sidewalks, one on parking. So really there were 20 questions, but I treated it as 21. And there are in those 21 questions, 9,062 responses. Some of those responses are duplicates because they might have talked about schools in the comment, they might have talked about taxes in the comment, and they might have talked about government. So that one comment will appear in 3 different categories. Okay. So I built this in Excel. There are 21 Excel files. Those Excel files house 416 worksheets that are just with no summaries. And there are another 31 summaries. So it's a total 447 Excel worksheets. And that includes 602 categories. So basically, since mid-December, I believe I've been averaging about 2.5 hours a day, 7 days a week to get work. So, I think it really shows that we wanted input, and this will show back to the public that we're listening. So if you decide to proof this, understand you're going to get over 800 pages. A lot of them are short, okay? But a lot of them are full, okay? And it's large, bold print, so people can read it.
That's good.
Right now, it is in PDF format. I have never converted the PDF to Word. I probably do it. Experiment. Somewhat Word format. So I'll work on that. I would ask that any corrections you want to make. I'll give it back. I need to know your corrections. I changed 447. Makes sense. Okay. If you want to change something that impacts all 447 worksheets, push back. You know, the fact that it has lines, like font size, push back. I did do spell check on all of the responses. And there were a lot of bad ones. And I did not do grammar checks. I don't know if we need to do that. Okay. 200 responses, only 2 responses were modified. So I worked with Marcus, I worked with Ken on 2 of them. Well, 2 derogatory. Focused on individuals. They changed those 2. Now I have another one. After the index is finalized, then I'm going to come up with an index. Okay, I'll show you a little bit about that. Let's see. Oh, sure. I think this will make the appendix even more useful. The appendix is set up by the 21 questions. However, many categories go across multiple questions. So the index will give you the pages that category is, all pages in the appendix. Okay. So for instance, access will have at least 3 secondary categories: White Trail, Lake, and general. Agricultural will have many. I've only started this. This will grow as we go. Okay. Another useful aspect of this we can, for instance, Randy or any department head can look up in the index, or we may choose to print it and send it to them. See every comment that was made that affects them. Period. And if you're on a committee, you're doing research about a zoning thing, or you're doing on the conservation thing, or you're working on LMC on the Congamon thing, you'll be able to see every comment on Congamon, conservation, any category that's in there. See. Now, the real small categories, I would not do small. I don't think they're that useful. The category other that does have quite a few, but most of them are more others because they have quantities of one. On the page, so I'll go with that. But you can see here, it's it covers a lot of territory. And I think this will make it the most useful which we can make it. Questions?
I have a question just because I.
Please, could you maybe use the microphone because recordings are important. Well, green light on. Push gray button. Program.
Hold it in.
My kind of concern of having you allow multiple people get into your Word or your Excels. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
And as much as it's more work for you, I think it's almost better to have people jot everything down and make the changes so that you can make the changes. Because you get too many hands in the pot, unless you split it up for like groups or pages. Yeah, maybe chapters. I don't really know how you have it set up and have different people do a chapter. But I just feel as the person who's got a handle on it all, you might lose control.
Well, we could split the questions up.
Hmm.
And say we had 4 groupers, by 20 questions by 4, and have them do that.
Yeah.
But if it's expected that way, we won't get probably continuity, but easier way to get to the end.
Yeah.
But you're gonna review all the comments or from whoever reviews it.
Yes.
You're gonna make the final
Yeah, but
changes.
if 4 people are doing all 20 questions, 21 questions, then I gotta look at feedback from 4 people on 20
Yeah.
questions.
And that's really hard.
Well, I'll go back to something we did way in the beginning of this committee. We had people submit their knowledge, skills, and abilities as to their interests.
Yeah.
And for writing and reviewing editing materials, Dory Boyd, Bert Hansen, and myself had indicated an interest maybe at that time of doing reviews and editing, but that's 3. So I don't know if even those people want to sign on for something if you divided it up by 3, or if we have anybody else that's interested in looking at those items. Okay, we got 2 more. We have Marisa and Dave. Dory, are you interested in?
I want the simple ones, Norm.
Dory, are you interested in looking at these?
Honestly, I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish, so I don't know that I'm the best person. When it comes to actually written text and editing, I think that's where you'll benefit from my skill set.
Okay, so the chapters of the plans are coming in. Okay. Same question to you, Bert?
Yeah, I'm game to
Okay,
pick some.
so sure. I have all the time in the world to work on that.
So we have 4.
Yep, I have 4.
Good. Give each 5 questions.
Super. Okay, the
All right, thank you.
takes care of that, I think, for now. The only other thing that had come out was David Spina had commented on 2 items that were posted by Ken, the chapters, the initial material. So I don't know if you want to
Again, sure.
say anything there into a microphone, I think would be helpful. the ones you did look at and whatever.
Sure. So I took a look at the climate resilience and economic development of the three that are posted. I don't know if more have been posted since, but kind of, it was just those three. One thing I did just to, as for anybody else who's going to be doing it, I utilized the track changes feature in Word. People are hopefully familiar with that. You know, that way you're able to just type whatever you feel like as far as changing things, and it shows up in those a different font or whatever. You can add comments or questions and whatnot. And I emailed those back to Ken, who of course is not going to get them for a little while, and that's okay. So that he can then, you know, compile them all, my recommendations, comments, whatever, any of those that he found. One, you know, I made through, you know, a bunch of comments, but one thing that I guess I'll call common theme between the two that I looked at was, the paper did a real good job of describing the current state and laying out a bunch of questions that should be considered when thinking about the future. A little light in my mind on recommendations for the future and a future plan. I don't know if that was intentional. At this stage, maybe it's still a little early. We're just kind of, you know, wrapping our heads around everything. And I, in my reply back to Ken, I said, you know, if you want, I'm more than happy to throw a couple of recommendations or my own commentary on what that future should look like. Obviously, only my 2 cents, and that'll have to be, you know, compiled with everybody else. But I don't know if that's the general guidance. Should we be trying to fill out that last section, or is that something that's still coming?
And he didn't have time to get feedback yet.
Yeah.
So probably we'll wait and see how he responds, and because there may be, of course, as we still are moving through the process, we're gonna have the focus group materials too. And we have the visioning workshop that we had, so I don't know how much has been brought in there. The other one I believe that's up is the historical and cultural. So I took a quick look at it and thought, wow, Pat Odiorn or Lee Hamburg needs to look at this, because they're kind of the resident experts on a lot of the history in town. And I didn't know much about the cultural. The history I kind of knew, and they hit some good points. So I think still that's out there for someone to take a look at and, you know, get back to Ken. But we do have that history cultural work group folks identified, so we'll want to make sure they maybe are aware that that draft chapter is available.
It's a good idea.
And even if you want to provide them with hard copies at the work group meeting,
Sounds good.
because they're, you know, it's an overlap there. So appreciate David taking the time to do it.
And I'll look at more as they're posted.
Yeah, great.
Marcus, is that how we're supposed to get comments back just to Ken? I'm curious if you want to see them with John and Jessica.
I think John got to see probably what you had sent or made or done, or you let him know.
Happy John, I
Yeah.
think, maybe yourself.
Yeah.
On the email again.
I see the work.
So maybe the next iteration will say, committee members, take a look. Yeah,
Did you just download it, so you exported it into a Word doc?
microphone, please.
So you exported it just as a Word doc and then edited it on Microsoft Word, track changes, and then sent him the file that way.
Right,
Gotcha.
yep, and I appended the title of the file in the comments.
Right, gotcha, okay. Okay, thank you.
Did it come as Word? Did it come as?
It's
a Word?
downloaded as Word, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other items on the draft materials? Hopefully there'll be some more up on that site so people can have a look. So new business, on January 11th, there was a farmer forum held by the Agricultural Commission. And I know I saw the newspaper article. Was that, I guess it was a Penny Saver maybe that had There was something
There was something in the.
in the
Westfield
press. Okay, Westfield News, yeah. So- Bert Hanson, I'll ask to start it off, and Marissa, if you want to join in too as participant or member of that commission. Is it a commission?
Commission, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway. yes,
Yeah,
so
thank you, Bert.
I was surprised and pleased to see this on your agenda tonight. Because we, it was, as far as I know, the first ever farmer forum held in Southwick, at least in the 40 years that I've been here. And the AgCom wanted to do that for two reasons. One is, our purpose is to support some farmers in town. And also, as we all know, there's been a lot of comments and input about agriculture, through the survey, through the visioning sessions. So we wanted to reach out to the farmers and bring up, start a conversation. I see this as something that's going to go on for a while. And it was, as you mentioned, Marcus, let's see, Marissa was there, Lucas was there, Doug was there, on Zoom, Sage Fury and Diane Gale were there. I'm not sure if the others are attending today. So, and I thought, this is the very first time we're doing this. We get 5 or 6 people, okay, good start. Well, we had 30, 20 farmers and AgCom members, Peter Courier from the Westfield News. So I was kind of blown away, to tell you the truth, by that response, and a really good conversation with the farmers and getting them engaged. We weren't talking at them or to them as much as trying to engage them and ask them questions about how can we help you. We did that at the library. We touched with the library director, Lynn Blair, who, as it turns out, comes from a farm family, so she's all about farm stuff. I have a full page of follow-ups, of stuff that input the farmers gave us. Kind of groups into 5 sections or so. One is to support farms as businesses. The workshop, another piece of a student garden at the library. Big issue was conservation of the land and preservation and succession planning for the farmers. And then we're going to have a AgCom website, so we had a lot of input on what the website could or should do. The 2 big ones were the succession planning and supporting farms as businesses. And so the AgCom for a while now has been talking about having an open farm day, similar to the one that Granby, Connecticut has, or we set a day, and farmers who maybe don't necessarily have a farm store like Blasting Acres or Calabrese, but they can open their farms that day to welcome people in, show them their operation, maybe do demonstrations, so whatever level the farmer felt comfortable, committing to. Have a kind of this is a work in progress, but have a kind of a passport kind of thing. So as you went from farm to farm, get a sticker or something, and then we'll have a drawing. And that also ties into something that farmers wanted, was a farm trail. There's wine trails and there's museum trails, and so how about a farm trail? Guide you from farm to farm. They're on College Highway, and maybe they don't know that Calabrese is on Route 57. That's a kind of example. And another idea was to have a support Southwick Farms Day, kind of like a small business Saturday, right after Thanksgiving, to drive business to the farms and to that way. And actually, Russ Fox was at the meeting too. And he suggested, why don't you, meet with the Economic Development Commission? They do the Small Business Saturday, work together. So last night, I went to the Economic Development Commission meeting, and we got that in motion. And we don't know when it's going to be yet, but it's going to happen. And Lynn Blair at the library has already reached out to CISA in Amherst. That's a potential workshop topic or presenter. Another workshop topic we're going to look into is grant writing, help they farmers with grant writing. They said, a few people said, could you make it, help us make it less intimidating to write a grant? So we're going to get to that as well. So the next regular AdCom meeting is February 8th. So we're going to be going over all this input, all these suggestions, try to set some priorities. Some of the things will be fairly easy to do, the open farm day, support farm business day, or whatever we're going to call it. And then getting into things like succession planning. Some of those are kind of a bigger deal. But again, it's very, then we asked the farmers who were comfortable doing it to give us their contact information. About 15 did. And so, the next day or next 2 days, I sent out an email to say, thank you for coming. And by the way, do I have your email address right? And I got several responses back. Yeah, the email's good. If you ever do this again, I'll be there. So this was very gratifying. I don't know if Lucas or Maria said they want to add anything.
Lucas, you were there because you're a farmer or you want to be a farmer?
Well, see, I kind of help out with the agricultural commission. I actually is still in process of applying as like the first student on the agricultural commission.
Excellent.
So I figure, it'd be a good idea to go there, learn some new things about farmers, how they work and such.
Excellent. I think that's a great initiative. And as far as a record of what happened there, I guess if it's going to be an agenda item on the next agricultural commission meeting, we'll have that record available. Were you thinking of summarizing anything,
Yeah.
in a report form or?
And we didn't do the farmer forum on Zoom. Sage Fury has been working on the website and he joined by Zoom. But we didn't really open it up on Zoom because we wanted to meet face to face, get to know each other.
Yeah.
So maybe the next one, we can do hybrid or whatever. But
Well, it'll work out.
yeah, the AdCom meetings are all hybrid, so there will be a recording.
Yeah.
There's minutes and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting discussion, and I'm sure there's land attorneys and, the succession thing is like really significant. I know the woodland owners do programs like that. Forest Legacy, how do you transfer your ownership to your heirs without getting into very expensive fees and processing through probate and all that kind of thing. So that's a big
Organization called Land for Good. And their tagline is gain ground for farmers. And they were just recently introduced to them, but they do a lot of that kind of work. So we're going to be tapping into that as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, excellent. Any comments from members? Good. Next, under new business, Corey.
Now I got my gummies.
Oh, yes. Now that you've given your presentation, you have this sugar. Draft vision and goal statements. I put this on here because I thought, well, we'll see where we can kind of start going. And Corey Rowland has been working on that. So certainly turn it over to her to share. David, maybe you can provide the microphone there. So
I just share my screen?
it gets to where people can hear it.
So Ken and I met before he left for an hour and a half. You get two scenario planning geeks on the phone.
Uh-oh,
We did-
only an hour and a half, right?
Well, it's Friday at 6 o'clock and it's time for both of us to go home. we did talk about the white papers that you were talking about, and, that's exactly what he wants edits and things. We talked about that, he's got a lot of background information in there, so anything that might go in the master plan, that might go in an appendix, because you're gonna lose people when they have to kind of go through lots of different graphs and charts and things. But he welcomes everybody's edits. So then we talked about visioning. And so I'm going to try to share my screen. So when you think about a vision, I put together just a few bullets to help you think about what a visioning statement is and what it isn't. And differing from a mission statement, differing from objectives and goals and things like that. And you write a vision statement differently than you would write just plain old objectives or many of the things we've worked on so far. So one of the first thing is, it's who we are in 2040. So we're gonna have to time travel again a little bit and think about, it's 2040. And what does Southwick look like if we achieve everything we want to in the master plan, or at least major portions of it? So it's already happened. It's not it's going to happen, it's already happened. The interesting thing,
Batteries died.
the interesting thing is that you actually use present tense. So again, like it's already happened, not Southwick will be this and Southwick will do that. It's Southwick is. So again, it's your vision, right? Same as a vision you might have had for your career, your family, that sort of thought process. So another thing is that, yeah, this battery's going. Another thing is that it's ambitious and aspirational, but yet attainable. It's still within reach. So it should be something that when people read it, they don't just go, yeah, we talked about that. It's like, wouldn't it be great if this was Southwick in 2040? So you give them that vision. You literally want them to picture this in their heads about what living and starting or growing a business in Southwick is. It's short. So some of the vision statements that were shared, and they were vision statements more for the master planning committees of those towns rather than towns, and the assignment we were given was right for the town, not for the master planning committee. And many of them were really long and they were rather generic. So, and what I always tell when I take businesses through this, I always say, if you could put that on a sign and hang it on somebody else's door, that's not your vision. That's just a lot of generic words that sound really good. So it's also got, you have to relate it back to something that's unique. What we often found is that when you're talking about a town or a city, that within the vision statement is something geographical, something that makes unique. So Palmer talked about all the different, the intersection of the rivers and everything, right? There's an area within Palmer that's 3 rivers. And what that meant, so their vision included that as being a unique aspect, particularly for recreation, even some businesses. So there's a lot of different things unique about Southwick. But again, because it's short, we have to be a little bit creative. And then we also talked about some themes for goal statements. So we didn't write out goal statements because we want everybody to feel comfortable with where the vision's going and what the themes are for the goal statements. And, we can work through that. So we sort of suggested some themes for that. And then the master plan itself will look at those themes and all of the survey work, which is great input as well, and then define the roadmap. The master plan is really the roadmap, and it's more detailed with the mission of what each element has to do, and it's up to us if we want to do it in the chapters that Massachusetts looks for, plus the additional chapters we ask for, or whatever. So there's going to be sort of missions of each of the elements, and they roll up to achieve that vision. So that gets into the more details. And one of the things that sometimes is hard, because we live here, we work here, we're growing businesses here, we have great affection for the town and everything, but it's important to kind of take a step back and say, if I knew nothing about the town in 2040, and I was thinking of moving here, raising my family here, growing my business here, what would inspire me? So back to that aspirational, it's not just for us, it's for the us that's to come. It's for this generation over here. Does that make sense? So Ken and I talked about, you know, we didn't want to assume that everyone kind of understands vision versus mission and things like that. So just sort of some background. So what we did was, you should see my notebook, it's a total mess when we were talking, just what about this, what about this? So we put together like one idea, or I basically ran it by Ken, I caught him before he left. He actually emailed me 2 days ago, so I hope he's having an okay time. And so we put together one just to give you a sense of an example of a vision statement. It's obviously, it's easier to react to something than to say, here's a blank piece of paper, let's talk about a vision. And then we also put together, I asked him about these themes and he was fine with all of that. Again, this is just sort of to give you an example. I also have it in Word, so I will get it to John and so that make sure everybody has it. So this is one of the things that we talked about. Again, it has a geographic distinction for us. It encapsulates some of the things that came out of the survey, some of the things that we've talked about wanting to do. Now, the survey is super important. It's input and insights, but in the end, it's up to us to kind of figure out what comes out of that goes in there. And then kind of sort of wrapping it around. So we're addressing residents, we're addressing businesses, what we want, what we don't want in businesses, and we're addressing farming because that came up as very important. So this is just one example. I'm not going to read it to you, but we try to capture all the different elements that go into a vision statement. So, but you can see how it's written in present tense, as if it's 2040. So the idea is for you to kind of, all right, I can literally see it. The vision. If there's some things that we can't see or we see and we don't like what we see, that's where the edits come from. And then the next thing were the themes, like, all right, high level goals in order to be able to get there. So to talk about, one thing I wrote down that Ken and I were saying is we want to service the older residents and keep the younger ones. Because most of the younger ones are not hanging around, but I am hanging around Western Mass, never mind Southwick. So how do we maybe reverse that trend a little bit? And this has been going on for years when I was involved with a Western Mass regional group. The 91 corridor, they were calling it, was trying to work on young people retention, and that was maybe 15, 20 years ago. It's planning for all the environmental issues. It's planning for the infrastructure. That came up a lot in the focus group, in the breakout sessions and the surveys. It's one thing to say we need these services, but we have to build and plan and build for that infrastructure. We can't just say, you know, wouldn't it be nice? This is where it starts to get down to all right, this is what we all believe in. What do we know? What do we need to know? And what does it take? And then all about the same thing with infrastructure, utilities, transportation. And then I took some notes in the last meeting where people talked about in the survey, and I guess there was interest in the idea of unification of Southwick. So if it's 2040, the town's going to have a little bit of different look. It's going to have to be because things are changing all around us, whether we want them to or not. So what does that look like? How do you balance the small town charm with the need for more modern things and make it look like it all fits? And so that's kind of the important one. And the other thing Ken and I talked about is when we do all this, we need to make sure everybody knows about it. And I don't just mean town of Southwick, but regionally.
I moved here in the late eighties. I grew up in Agawam. And when we drove out to the house we lived in then, which was closer to Granville, my father said, why are you moving so far away? So Southwick has, you ask people about Southwick who don't live here, Agawam and Westfield people kind of know. That is about it. And their view of Southwick might be different than what we think their view is. One of the things I said to Ken is we did a great job surveying the residents. I'd love to just ask Western Massachusetts and Northern Connecticut, would you ever consider moving to Southwick? Why or why not? Would you consider starting a business in Southwick? Why or why not? What's the impression of Southwick for people that, you know, maybe they're getting married and they want to stay in Western Mass, but not in the town they grew up in? What would make them come here or stay here? So he was really intrigued by that. None of the other towns had tried it. We were going to talk about it when he got back. But the whole idea is we could do a really great job and everybody in Southwick is really happy. And it doesn't mean that people relocate here, young people stay here, etc. It just means that we've got this really great vision. So anytime you do something new, there has to be an awareness campaign about it later, not just for those in town, but all over. So that's something to think about. That's a ways, you know, we've got to get the master plan and everything, but we spent a lot of time talking about that. And even how it might happen. And then like I said, it was 6 o'clock and both of our spouses were like, hello, it's 6 o'clock on a Friday. But yeah, it was really great chatting with him on that. So this is where we ended up with a vision and some themes to kind of work through again with the committee. We just wanted to give sort of something to spark some discussion.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent start. I certainly enjoy seeing the vision statement, and right away I'm editing it. But anyway, my time in the Forest Service, 36 years, in forest resource planning, the Forest Service has always had our mission of caring for the land and serving people. 7 words.
That's a vision statement.
Yeah, and it's gone on forever.
Yeah.
Well, it's still in use anyway, and it started, I don't know when, back in maybe the 90s that they started using it, but those kinds of things are really excellent to have, where you can, you know, capture things, and I tried to twist that a little bit for Southwick and say we should care for the land and water while managing change. And that's not a vision, that's going to be how to accomplish a vision. But,
No, I think it's great to have some, like a shorter thing to inspire people. But even that one, I would say people who live on Quabbin that town could have that. So remember when I said you can hang that on shingle on somebody else's town? We don't quite know that it's Southwick. People should be able to read it and know it's Southwick because we've made it something unique. But that would be like, something like short like that is great for a marketing campaign, right? So it's the just do it of town government, right? What's our tagline?
how about the again, the marketing aspect, I guess. We say we're a recreational community. Do we want to approach that and think of something else, such as we're the gateway to the Pioneer Valley? Or,
Yeah.
you know, something to that effect.
I was actually on the Economic Development Committee. We put the signs up that say we are recreational. I lived here for over 35 years. I don't consider ourselves a big recreational community if you don't go on the lake. You know, because other than that, everything we have, everybody else has some sort of that.
Oh, okay, Southwick is unique because of the lake,
It's unique
but
because of the
other
lake,
communities
but
have the other things.
even the people who live here don't necessarily go to the lakes.
But when you guys came up with that, right?
Mike, please, Mike, sorry. No.
So when that tagline for Southwood came up, what was different then than now? I mean, obviously the lake was there, but was there more snowmobiling? Was there more outdoor activities that were happening in the town then that kind of gone by the wayside?
You should have you. I think, I mean, there's always, if you have kids and who are involved in sports, so you spend a lot of time here, you know, in the center of town at that. But I think there was at least the, when we had the breakouts, somebody said, I think it was in ours or it was in one of the, when they beat outs, they said, if we want to do something fun, we go to either somewhere in Western Mass, or I think they were saying in Granby, Simsbury area, we don't stay in Southwick. And so that, I remember writing that down and underlining about 5 times, because I don't think they're alone. And so, you're not. So that is one thing, and you're never gonna please everybody, you're never gonna find the right thing that everybody loves to do, but if you aren't a lake person and you don't have kids in sports, you're not hanging around.
Okay.
And the kids aren't hanging around. I could,
From an aspirational standpoint, if we want to be a recreational community, though, we make suggestions with the master plan to lean into that, don't we?
well, I think let's define recreational community. So one of the reasons I chose vibrant social atmosphere is because for some, it's sporting type things, whether it's the lake, whether it's snowmobiling, things like that. We heard a lot, both in the survey and in the breakout groups, about just entertainment, the ability to like, oh, this is cool, this is happening in Southwick. And not just from Southwick people. Because if you get people to come here, well, because it's a vibrant social atmosphere, just for the night, the Saturday night, not only do they spend money here, hopefully in our restaurants and things, but who knows, they may be planning in 3 months to look to move or build a house or something, so they get them out to Southwick. And so there's a halo effect when you become a desired location for certain things. You never know what other things people see in your town.
So two,
Oh, thank you, Dory, for the comment. That was Dory speaking
Yeah,
on Zoom.
sorry, two
Mr.
things.
Mogul, yes.
One is, you mentioned it, and I think we're probably gonna have another meeting about mapping out the vision statement. I think the lake should be present in the vision statement, since it's so prominent in what defines Southwick geographically on the border and why the notch exists. And then the last part is the recreational community. I think that definition is multiply defined. Like, you can look at, you've seen a lot of communities, whether they're over 55 or whatever, that describe themselves as that just because of the activities that they provide. It may not be running and jogging and boating, and it could be canasta. I'm just making it up, but whatever those are, and that defines the lifestyle. And then toward the master plan or towards, adapting zoning, so more mixed use type things where there is the restaurant down and residents up or very nearby and it's walkable. That to me, it can, and there's other stuff within that. It's not just the restaurants. It could be a place to exercise or, whether sport of
Retail.
choice, right?
Retail down below.
Yeah, I mean, that's towards, I think that kind of winds in, and if you envision 2040, I also think from my own look at it is, if you go up and down College Highway, a lot of that infrastructure and buildings are reaching near or they are approaching their useful life. And you're going to see a lot of renovation, reconstruction, rebuilding in those facilities. Not every one of those buildings is going to live to be, 100+ years old, like this beautiful building here, right? They're going to be redone and reused, and they're going to transform how this town looks. This is the opportunity to kind of guide and shape that toward the end, toward the mission, or toward the vision. So
Yeah, I mean, if you go up and down 202 now, and I try to do this again, where I say take off your resident hat, like your I Love Southwick sunglasses.
Oh, absolutely.
The fact that we've got all these dollar stores is not good for bringing in new people. As much as you can find really good things at the Tractor Supply and all that, again, that gives a, that's the way out, and that's way out in the burbs, that's rural, and I don't wanna live, I need something that's more, there's more going on. Now, some people may want, this is exactly what I want, peace and quiet, and I don't, I don't want noise pollution and things like that. But there may be, and this is why I really wanna kind of survey the region, there may be false impressions of the town that we also have to take into consideration. Because we could do all these great things, but if we haven't reached the people that help Southwick grow, then we might be in trouble.
Correct, and well, I think respectfully disagree about Tractor Supply in point. There's now one in Simsbury. People regard that to some, it's an asset to the community. And I think that, especially with, what we're talking about with the farmers forums and driving towards agriculture and supporting that as a business and as a significant portion of our economy. And then there's other things that, as you said, as a homer for Southwick, right? And we always want to promote our hometown and it's great. I remember when I was on the planning board and Pioneer Valley Planning came in, we were talking about signs and sign bylaws, and we were looking at reviewing that, and we had all kinds of varied opinions, but Pioneer Valley Planning came in and said the ugliest sign in the Pioneer Valley is in South, still there today. I won't call it out now, okay, but it's still there now. But that, the town is, that's I guess it's whatever. There's like, they have and this is a little aside. Huh?
It's the town crier.
No, it's not. Might close for a second though, but no.
Let's not to go down that rabbit
They
trail.
basically have said, this is Pioneer Valley expertise said that, a sign with two posts sticking out of the ground and signs running between it, vertically as to the sky is ugly or, not appealing to the eye. And therefore, the ugliest one happens to be right on College Highway in Southwick. So, we took that under advisement that they had revised the sign bylaw. We had all kinds of opinions. Was the one opinion was all signs should be white background, green print in this font, this height. Kind of like what you've seen that in town south of here, that they've adopted some measure of that. I think that's the kind of, some of the things that can be effectual, but that was, I think you're going to have varied opinions on what makes Southwick a great place to live for varied people. There are people that said, look, what people regard Southwick is now Granville and Tallinn. We wanted to be out in the boonies. We didn't want anybody around me. I didn't want to see, hear, smell, taste anybody else for miles. So I moved to Southwick, and now look at it. I'm going to Tallinn. But other people are like, Southwick is, other people are looking at the developments that have come in and they want to live here. Obviously, those, newer homes are selling and they're appealing for various reasons. And then there may be new things coming that make the place more appealing. My last point is in here, and are you going to carry this on the agenda for future discussion or?
Oh, of course, yes,
But
because
is-
we'll be commenting on it between now and the next meeting on your.
That's what I said, we wanted to just, instead of giving you a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And so I don't mean to be very critical. I just was, my first impression, I always like to,
Exactly how I
and I also would, my last point, and then because it is already 8 o'clock is, we enable, and small is in parentheses. I think that you've got to look at that and just say we enable businesses, because some of the businesses that we have in town are not small. And some of them, we may think they're small and they're not small, or they're geographically large, but they're small, like Calabrese Farms. How do you define that? I consider that a large business. It's on a big track. They have a big output. They have a big impact on the community. They're a big supplier to some of the largest grocery chains in the region. They're great. I work at Wally Computer. We have over 200 employees. I don't consider that, that's by no stretch or definition a small business. Is it an asset to the town?
That's why.
I get it.
Graphics means variable data.
So I'm gonna get my plug in now to say, I don't know, just for.
And Wally was an innovative startup.
Absolutely.
So John was my high school algebra teacher, so.
We are.
Fantastic.
world.
And, and now it's on to, there's a new leadership there, to take the company forward. And, there's other businesses in there that have, multiple dozens of employees, Westfield Gauge or whatever, WGI now, and next door to us that have significant numbers of employees that I think they're an absolute asset to the town and what they do without being, I would say, detrimental to the town. So that's an area of focus, for people, I always say that I'm blessed that I can live, work and play in the town of Southwick. And I think that's a great thing, but that I'm able to say. And I think that is an asset for hopefully more and more people can take advantage of and not just be a bedroom community. And, I come home at night and I eat dinner, watch TV, maybe I go out to dinner on Saturday, but in the morning I'm on my way to Hartford or Springfield or wherever, that there's opportunity for everything here.
So, I'd like to give Scott Lehman a chance. I think he
Yeah, very
wanted to say
quickly,
some things.
regarding the recreational community, tag that we have. I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but, when I travel, I tell people where I'm from. Charter boat captain in Alaska and one in the Keys, and they both knew the sandbox.
Yep, absolutely.
So
All over the world.
I feel, I don't know. I don't know if you ask people, not just in the surrounding town, but across the country, what do you know Southwick Mass has? They'll tell you it's photographs. And this is.
Yeah, and this is, there you go. Donuts and motorcycles.
But
Yeah.
I feel as though I don't feel as though, and I have nothing, I can get hurt without getting on a motorcycle riding in the woods. So I don't have anything, any skin in the game with motocross, but I feel as though we haven't really talked about it or built any statements or plans or anything around it. I mean, could we host more national races a year? And then we open up our vacation rental by owners and all of a sudden that business is thriving and then they have the lakes and the restaurants and whatnot. So I feel that we haven't talked a lot about what.
I remember when the Nationals were multi-day, it was the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So people would come into town and they would stay and they would go to the restaurant. I live right around the corner now, people pull in, watch the race and leave town. We don't get them to buy into Southwick for the weekend. We can convince them to make that another multi-day race. It definitely drives people that are gonna stay here in town.
Okay, I know they'll be using electric motorcycles in 2040, but it'd be quieter anyway. No. Any other comments from folks that haven't had a chance
Mr. Chairman,
to,
Dory has her hand up on.
Dory?
I wanted to echo what Doug was saying and throw out the suggestion of community-based or locally owned instead of the word small. So we enable locally owned businesses or we enable community-based businesses to kind of reiterate that they live here, they work here, they play here, what Doug was saying.
I think localism was big in what you were saying. Doug.
Thank you. So local, community-based sort of terminology. I appreciate Corey's work and
Yeah.
putting something out here for us to look at. It's a great start. And it's eye-opening, and I know with a 17-member committee, we will have lots of input. So anyway,
Will this be shared to the group, your presentation, so that we can?
Yeah, and I said I have it in words.
Great, thank you.
so John will be sharing that soon,
And
before the next meeting.
Thanks, John.
All right, so I'd like to move on to routine business. We do have a set of minutes from January 5th, 2023. We could consider approving. If anybody would want to.
And one small comment.
Motion made by Ross Terry
I'll second.
and Bert Hanson seconds, and as a discussion.
One very small thing on page 2, 3B in the second line, I think the word transportation should be capitalized, which it is elsewhere.
Page 2, 3B.
The second line, the transportation of facilities for.
Oh, the set I have, it is capitalized.
The good news, it was,
Oh,
I believe that was part of us.
Somebody must have edited.
Scrivener's error.
What do I, but thank you.
okay.
Yes, it is in the official latest version.
And then a little more substantively, in the next page, new business and for, the paragraph on the community survey write-in question material, I wonder if we should add that something like, Mr. Cheever noted that the appendix will include specific text of free-form responses. That seems important, to me.
So you would put that in as an additional sentence.
Right.
Mr. Cheever
Noted that the appendix will include the specific text of the free-form responses.
John, do you have that?
Both here in the recording.
So with those suggested, well, the one suggested addition of a sentence, we have a motion and a second. So Doug, could you do a roll call for this?
Marcus Phelps,
Aye.
David Spina,
Aye.
Doug Moglen, aye. Randy Brown,
Aye.
David D. Delory,
Aye.
Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Dave McWilliam,
Aye.
Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Patrick Jubb. He was here.
Oh,
He checked in. He must have checked out. Scott Lehman. Dory Boyd,
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Roz Terry. Jessica Whitmore Parker,
Aye.
Corey Rowland, Marissa Cook Obergan,
That's Dana, I left the meeting early.
Lucas Karen,
Aye.
and that's it.
okay. So with that roll call, we have a approval of the minutes of January 5th, 2023 by majority vote with the one sentence change added by Mr. Hanson and two abstentions. Thank you. So do we have an official copy we can route for signing to be efficient, so we don't have to process it again? All right, last item, any committee member comments from the group?
Coming down, Mr. Chairman.
I always have two. No, I always have comments. It's interesting as we're doing this master planning process in Southwick. Some other entities in the town have started doing some planning or doing surveys. I'm thinking about the library has initiated a survey, I believe, and they're looking at getting input so they can do a little more planning on what services they need to provide. And I'm not totally up to speed on it, but I'm understanding the school district is looking at their facilities, and I don't know whether they're the maintenance of them or the idea of expanding them in some way. I don't know, Lucas, have you come across anything through your interactions on any kind of planning over there at the school?
That I'm aware of, no. They haven't been coming up with anything in the way that you've been doing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we hear any of those things and there are, there's some documentation, I think it would be helpful to add it to our list of input. Because if they're doing some surveys, like the senior center would be doing something there, which we're aware of. But there may be other things that we're not aware of.
Maybe
Steve.
I attended a strategic planning workshop, I'll call it, over at the school, maybe a month ago or so. Yeah.
And that was facilitated by
Superintendent Wilson.
superintendent?
Yeah.
Okay. Good, because the school is a big part of our budget. For whatever reason, we would hopefully, even if you don't have students in the school, be interested in it because it really affects how Southwick is looked at when people are exploring, relocating or whatever especially younger folks, are really making, decisions based on how the quality of the schools and where their children would be going.
Absolutely.
All right, any other comments?
I do.
Oh, Dory?
I believe the library actually does that annually, so if we wanted to at least use the 2022 survey results, those should be available.
Thank you. I see Mr. McMahon is in the audience. Are you, you're a trustee of the library?
Yeah.
Okay, so that,
The library does a survey every year, and then they do a new strategic plan every 4 years.
okay,
Part of the strategic plan process, they do a survey, expanded survey.
so is the library, where is the library in their 4-year phase of,
We'll be finishing up, trustees will probably get the new strategic plan next month.
okay, good. There's another item to add to our input. Thank you, Michael. Okay, a reminder, we'll be meeting on February 2nd, first Thursday of the month, and we'll be meeting on February 16th, the third Thursday of the month. So we avoid Valentine's Day, and we should be good. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Mogul made a motion.
Second.
Ross Terry second for adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think it's a majority vote. Any opposed? No. Any abstaining? No.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
Thank you.